We are wounders, we are wounded. We are healers, we can be healed. In the name of the living God, amen. Please be seated. Can we take just a moment? I look around and there is so much happening in our world, in our nation, in our lives. I wonder, can we take just a moment? You know, it's been more than 50 years since John Lennon sighed and sang, "I read the news today, oh boy." And now the news doesn't just come every day. It comes every hour. It comes every minute. It is intrusive. It is addictive. It is relentless. And every piece of news, every story melds with a piece of our story, and we feel it. We feel it in our bodies. We feel it in our hearts, in our very souls. Or maybe we don't. Maybe we have built a wall and anesthetized ourselves, or maybe our brains just can't handle anymore, so we just don't feel anymore. Maybe we feel too much. Maybe we are crushed by the weight of all these feelings, and maybe feeling is what we long to do. Maybe we haven't felt something in a long, long time. Maybe we long to feel anything that reminds us that we are alive. And while all this is happening, our lives, our stories, they keep going too. It is relentless, and there is good. There is such good, such joy, such hope. And yet there is pain. Pain from within, pain from without. It's intrusive, addictive, relentless. Every day, every hour brings something new that melds with something old. It's relentless. So can we just take a moment? Can we just take a moment, please, and breathe? Right here, right now, just for a moment. Just for a moment, let's close our eyes. And take a moment. Breathe in. Hold that breath. Feel it. You are alive. You have life within you, and it is good, and you are good. And let it out. One more time. Breathe in. Hold it, feel it, let it out. Now, can we just sit here for a moment and just breathe? Now, can we try to trust? Now, I know trust can be really, really hard. I know so much has been done to break our trust. That's part of the pain, isn't it? And just for this time together, can we try to trust even just a little bit that in this time we are together in this space, it's okay to feel, and it's okay not to be able to feel. For this time we are together, can we try to trust that no matter what your experience is of church before, in this space, it's okay to be who you are, to be becoming who you are becoming. In this space, you are safe. No matter what you have experienced in church before, in this space, to just try to trust that you're not alone. Okay. This is Healing Sunday at All Saints Church. We We do this every year. Every year we pause as one year ends and the next begins. We pause and take just a moment before our intrusive, addictive, relentless world resumes, before we are thrown back into the fray of endless activity and insulated loneliness. A moment together to stop and breathe and feel, if we can. To feel what the world is doing to us, to feel what we are doing to one another, to ourselves, to be as honest as we can about the wounds that we carry, to dare to speak the truth of our wounds, even if it is only in the silence of our hearts, to dare to trust that we can be healed. You know, as time goes on, I'm learning that there are 4 truths to human existence. We are wounders, we are wounded, we are healers, we can be healed. And each one of those identities, so central to who we are and how we experience life, has expressions of power and powerlessness that are crucial to understanding how we stop the intrusive, addictive, relentless cycles of wounding that enslave us. Now, the first thing we need to recognize is that we are all wounders. We wound each other, the creation, and ourselves, and we do it for 1,000 reasons. We wound out of fear and out of ignorance, by our action and by our inaction. We wound with deep intention, and we wound completely unawares. And when we wound, we have power. Whether we know it or not, whether we crave it or not, every time we wound, we are exercising power and using that power by commission or omission, intentionally or unwittingly, to bring harm. Because that's what wounding is. Wounding is a misuse of power, to bring harm instead of wholeness, to tear down instead of build up, to isolate instead of to bring together. We are all wounders, because whether we have a little power or a whole lot, we all misuse it sometimes. The first step in solving a problem is admitting there is one. We are all wounders. And let that truth keep us from the circular firing squads and purity tests that leave nobody worthy of our love and support. Let that truth bathe us in humility and free us from shame. Let that truth make us more aware of the power we have and how we choose to use it. We are all wounders. And we are all wounded. Nobody gets through life unscathed. Just as we have all used our power to harm others, others have used their power to harm us. Sometimes our own bodies, our own minds, even our very memories have turned against us. We are wounded in small, seemingly inconsequential ways and in huge, traumatic, debilitating ways. And because our wounds reveal our vulnerability to others' power being used over us, because our wounds have the power to make us more vulnerable to that happening again, and because we believe the lie that vulnerability is weakness, we hide our wounds. We are ashamed of our wounds. We treat our wounds like scarlet letters. Think about it. When we start to cry, the first thing we do is apologize for our tears. Oh, I'm sorry. Instead of saying, yeah, that's right, I'm hurting. When someone says, hey, how's it going? The word fine or great escapes our lips even before we have time to link it to a thought. We are all wounded. And we can also discover that our wounds can give us power. That's right, there is power to being wounded, and we know it. The power of our wounds is important, even sacred. It chases away the clouds of shame. There is power to claiming our woundedness, to speaking, singing, and even screaming the pain, the grief, the fear, the rage. Jesus' disciples told the blind beggar Bartimaeus, screaming at the side of the road, to just shut up. But Jesus said, no. Bring him to me. Let me hear that cry. Because Jesus knew that crying out, claiming the power of our woundedness is an important first step in moving from victim to survivor, a first step on the road to healing and wholeness. There is good and sacred power in making the world aware of our wounds, and we need to provide, hold, and protect space for that speaking, singing, and screaming to happen. And because there is power to claiming our woundedness, that power can be misused. Particularly for those among us who have been oft and deeply wounded in ways that have robbed us of power. The power of claiming our woundedness can often feel like the first best power we have ever had, and we can fear that it's the only power we'll ever have, so we hold on to it. It can feel so good to claim, speak, sing, and scream it that like any power, it can seduce us. We can use the power of our woundedness to manipulate others. We can let the power of our woundedness, the pain, grief, fear, the rage, lead us to lash out as wounders, keeping the cycle going. We can confuse discomfort for woundedness and try to claim the same power. And we can become so seduced by how good it feels to claim the power of our woundedness, to speak, sing, and scream it, that we can get stuck in that place of woundedness and never take the next step into healing. We are all wounded, and there is power to claiming it, but claiming it is but a step on the journey, not the destination. Third, we are all healers. Yes, there are people whose presence, whose words, whose touch have been and are deeply healing in our lives, but that does not mean that they have magical or even special powers. And we vest ourselves and one another with those powers at our great peril. There is deep power in healing. And when we confuse the power that heals with the person through whom we receive it, we risk a dependency that is debilitating instead of empowering. There is deep, deep power in healing, and there is nothing magical about it. It is the natural, transforming, restoring power of love. Love is the greatest power for healing in the universe, and love cannot be held and manipulated. Love can only flow into and flow through. This was the message of Jesus, and it is a message that has been misinterpreted and misused for nearly 2,000 years as we have tried to own that power and use that power for our own ends. Jesus never meant to say that he was necessary for transformation and healing, only that love was. And that love was available to everyone, everywhere, anytime. Jesus looked down from the cross at his mother and the disciple whom he loved and said, "Woman, behold your son." And then to the disciple, "Behold your mother." The love that heals, that sustains, that transforms does not die with me. It lives on in you. When the resurrected Christ stood on the shore and told Peter how to love him, he didn't say, "Tell those people to come to me." He said, "Peter, you feed my sheep. Love one another as I have loved you." We are all healers. And if we believe that healing power is something that we can own and use, if we buy into the lie that we or anyone else can be the healer and savior, it is just one more misuse of power that will only lead to more pain, more grief, more and deeper wounds. Which leads us finally to what this Sunday and what every time we gather is all about. That we can be healed. Our sister Becca Stevens reminds us that there is only one sacrament of the church with 7 prisms, healing, and what heals is love. Love that is more powerful than hate, more powerful than pain, than grief, than rage, yet somehow lives in the midst of it. Love that is more powerful even than death. Love that that is the very nature, power, and being of God. Love heals. And love cannot be owned or wielded. It can only flow between and among and through. We can be healed, each of us and all of us, and we can only be healed together. For it is the love of God poured into and through us as a community that is the ultimate power, the power that can heal every wound, the power that can make each of us and all of us whole. It is the love of God poured into and through us in community that is the power that is never used over to dominate or manipulate, but is always used with to rejuvenate and regenerate. In a few minutes, if you come forward for healing prayer, it's not the person who stands before you who is somehow laying magic hands on you, but the love of God that fills this room, that touches you and can heal you whether you come forward or not. We are wounders. We are wounded. We are healers, and we can be healed. I want to invite us to take one more moment. And if you are able to trust enough to reach out and take the hand of someone next to you. And if you have to move to make sure that you have a hand, and let's make sure that no one who wants a hand is left without a hand. Now just sit for a moment and close your eyes. It can be hard. But you know what we need when we cry? We need to be held. So just sit for a moment and hold and feel that hand in yours. And feel your hand in theirs. And just for a moment, feel that connection and try to trust that right here, right now, it is okay to be who you are, to become who you are becoming. Feel that touch and try to trust that you are safe. Feel that touch and try to trust that you're not alone. Feel the power of the love that flows between, among, and through. And just for a moment, try to trust that we can begin to be healed, our world, our nation, ourselves. If all we do is stop and take a moment and breathe and let love heal us together. Amen.